Welcome everyone to the Campus Pride Spotlight Series. My name is Ayla Azim, my pronouns are she and her, and I'm an intern with Campus Pride. For those who don't know, Campus Pride is a leading national nonprofit that empowers student leaders and campus groups working to create equitable college environments for LGBTQ+ students. You can learn more at campuspride.org. Today, I'll be interviewing the University of Pennsylvania for the Campus Pride Spotlight Series. This series is all about what campuses offer today's LGBTQ+ students, our diverse genders and sexuality spectrum. We will highlight colleges and universities that are providing LGBTQ+ inclusivity on their campuses and learn more about their programs and services. I want to introduce to you the representatives from the University of Pennsylvania now. Thank you so much for meeting with Campus Pride for the Spotlight Series. Welcome. Please introduce yourselves. Please share with us your name, your role on campus, and your pronouns.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Malik Muhammad. I use he and his pronouns, and I serve as the Associate Director here at the Penn LGBT Center. Super excited to be here today, and thank you to Campus Pride for having us.
Yes, I echo your thanks, Malik, to Campus Pride. My name is Erin Cross. I'm the Director of the LGBT Center at the University of Pennsylvania. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. So you have a 5 out of 5 star rating on the Campus Pride Index at campusprideindex.org, and you've been ranked among the best of the best in terms of LGBTQ+ friendly colleges and universities. So congratulations. To start out, tell us what are some things that are on your campus for LGBTQ+ life, and specifically, what does your campus do for LGBTQ+ students that creates an inclusive space?
That's a huge question.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. First, we're just honored to be a 5-star school yet again. We are lucky enough that we're the second oldest LGBT center on a college campus. So we've had many years to work on improving, but we still have room to grow. I think we really do well in terms of LGBTQ+ equity and inclusion, as well as social justice work on campus, because we stick to 3 pillars. The first is education, the second is advocacy, and the third one is support. And we work really hard in all of those to make sure we serve every aspect of our LGBTQ students. And we partner really well with other folks on our campus, whether it's other offices or administrators. I'm going to let Malik tell you a little bit about our 3 pillars.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Erin. So yes, as Erin said, we work through our 3 pillars of education, advocacy, and support. The first being education. We serve as an educational hub for LGBTQ+ life, right? So we do lots of educational outreach, including our promoting LGBTQ+ inclusivity workshops, our trans 101 workshops, transitioning in the workplace, right? And also giving folks whatever they feel they need in their individual spaces. We really do our best to curtail our educational programming to meet the needs of the given organizations or departments or spaces on campus that we are working with. The beautiful thing about the University of Pennsylvania is that it is a huge school with so many different moving parts. And we really try to do our best to spread that education so our entire campus community at least has that foundational knowledge of what it means to be a member of the LGBTQ+ community and how you can start to support folks that identify that way. So I listed a few of our sessions. We also have our safe space, safe zone trainings. And again, really coming at all of these educational programs from an intersectional lens. As Erin said, we really focus on social justice and understanding that all of us are coming with multiple layers of our identity that are impacting our everyday lives, especially here on a campus, right? So that's our education piece. We also serve as an educational space, so folks can come into our space when we are open, right? We are here in our virtual world, but when we're here and open, you can come into our space and totally utilize our library. We have a full library of LGBTQ+ content, movies, DVDs, books, all the things that we may need. And then we also are a proud member of the Bonet Cyber Center Foundation, who has provided us with multiple computers so folks can come and do all of their work that they need to do. And our shameless little plug is that we're one of the only places on campus where you can print for free, right? So we encourage folks to come print, and then they check out all the other amazing things that we have going on. So it's a space where folks can come and work full-heartedly. But then, of course, as an educational space, it's a space where folks can study, get the support that they need in terms of getting connected to research, getting connected to professors that they might be interested in connecting with. So that is our realm of education. Erin, would you like to talk a little bit maybe about our advocacy?
Absolutely. We do a lot of advocacy work on our campus, whether that's for an individual who feels aggrieved based on actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity, or as class action for the entire community. So for instance, around class action, we pushed for many years to have transgender inclusive healthcare, not just for faculty. And as a result of that, we have that coverage, and our students have top of the line health insurance for trans folks. So that's one big win we've had in the past years. And we're also a confidential resource space. So we advocate for folks if they feel they have been a victim of sexual violence in any way, and it stays completely confidential. And as around other things of advocacy, we're working a lot with our registrar's office and our provost's office right now to make sure the new student information system asks gender correctly, that they're not asking sex and labeling it gender, that people can designate their pronouns, that people don't have to go through a gatekeeping system to have their name listed and not their dead name. So we're doing that. Another really big thing we've worked on and that has been in place for the past few years is Penn decided that it's really important that people's diplomas have their names on them. So if anybody has gone through our official name change process so far, they get 2 diplomas. One with their dead name, because in some countries, diplomas are legal documents, and one with their name. And that has been such a great thing for our students to really feel like they're belonging at Penn, that Penn sees them. So we've done a lot of work behind the scenes as well, as you can tell.
Yes. And then I'll quickly add for our support piece, we also do individual and group support. So here on our campus, we have just about 20 to 25 student organizations, give or take a semester, give or take the activity of a group, that are dedicated to the LGBTQ plus community in some way, shape, or form. Some of these groups are very general, like our Lambda Alliance, which does a lot of our advocacy on the students' behalf. We have groups like the QSA, which is the Queer Student Alliance, which is kind of that social space for our students. Then we have some groups that are very niche to specific schools or identities. So we have like the Penn Dental Pride Alliance for the dental school. We have the Wharton Alliance for the Wharton school. Or we have groups like Penn Aces for asexual folks, or Penn Non-Cis, which is for our non-cis community. So we support those groups in a variety of different ways with financial support, group dynamics, helping them transition their leadership, helping them organize events as they need to, so providing that group support. But then we also do that individual support, right? So as Erin was saying, we're a confidential space. We kind of are a space where folks, if they need to talk about anything at all, they can come to us. Again, we like to think of ourselves as kind of that reference point where folks can get connected to other resources and things on campus.
Wonderful answers, very detailed. So what example can either of you share that signifies the importance of having a space on campus for an LGBTQ plus student?
I think there's so many examples we could choose from. One that immediately came to mind is after Trump was elected president, the next day, we opened up the center for all members of the Penn community, but especially the LGBTQ plus community. And students, staff, and faculty in our community came together saying this was the one place they felt they could really share their feelings, be upset, that they really felt like this was their community. They belonged at the center. And it made such a difference in so many people's lives when many of us just didn't know what to do. And being in that together has been incredibly huge. So that's one example that I can think of right off the top of my head. I'm sure Malik has another one.
I do. So the one that comes to mind for me is that here at the University of Penn, we have a very high international student population, right? So we have folks from all over the world. And I'm thinking about one student who was from Germany, and he was consistently coming into our space because this was one of the only places where he really felt he could be himself, to be free as someone that identifies within the community. We were having some our sessions, Free Fun Fridays. So every Friday we try to have an opportunity where folks can just come and hang out, build community, and engage in a fun activity that's totally free to all of our students. And he was at every single one, because this was the space that he knew he could come to and really be fully authentically himself, which he did not always get to do in his home country. So we get to be somewhat of that home for folks where they know they can just come and let go of all the things that are bogging them down, and they can truly, truly just live authentically.
Love that.
And he's
so
come
cool.
back in virtually to some of our events this year.
Yes.
Very, very cool. So may you please tell us more about your campus's LGBTQ plus inclusive policies, and how do students on campus feel about such policies?
I'll start this one off, Malik. We have a lot of inclusive policies on our campus, but as I said before, there's still so much we could be doing. So we have gender identity and sexual orientation in our non-discrimination policy, and that's where it all starts from. We also have policies around all gender housing. So people can live with other folks who want to be in all gender housing for undergrads. We have the name change process now that's slowly but surely moving to everybody can do it. So there's not this extra hurdle. We have the extra diplomas I talked about. We have policies around healthcare. All healthcare, not just one policy for staff and faculty, but all of our policy options have trans care in them. We also have policies around toilets. I often joke that I never thought I'd talk about toilets so much in my entire life, but toilets really matter. And for a while, we had a nice map of single-use restrooms around campus, which is great, and the hours for the building. And it was strongly suggested new buildings and renovations have a single-use restroom so that trans folks felt comfortable using the facilities. Then we realized that was much more separate but equal, but not equal, sorry. And we're really moving toward all gender multi-stall restrooms on campus. And that now is the suggested procedure and plan for all renovations and all new buildings, because that way, everybody can just go to the bathroom. You don't have to go to something separate. And where we have them now already, everybody loves them because they can go in and out much quicker. So it's been a hurrah as far as that's concerned. We have other smaller policies around the university that just are very Penn specific that probably wouldn't make sense to a lot of our viewers today. But our students are really grateful for these policies. But as you know, as a student, there's always something else that could be done. And that's what's exciting. Malik and I love helping our students feel more at home. And some of that is through policy work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will just add, I think our students are always on the cutting edge of how we can continue to push our communities forward, right? And we look to our students for their voice, for what they need, right? And some of our students, especially some of our student groups, will come and say, hey, we have this concern. How can we address this, right? And they really are the driving force sometimes behind how we even push these policies forward, right? When we think about the history of the LGBT Center, we are only here because of student advocacy, right? Because there was a desire from the students to have a space, right? So much of what we do is totally student driven, and we try to do our best to bring our students into those conversations as much as possible to really help us move forward. Because as Erin said, we got this 5 out of 5, but there's still so much work to be done. And I think it's so important to note that at any university, we are not immune to the overarching systems of heteronormativity, the overarching system of cisgender normativity, right? So we have to be very cognizant of how folks are coming into our campus space and uplifting our queer and non-binary voices as much as possible.
Amazing answers. And yes, bathrooms are very important.
Yeah.
So, in your personal opinions, why does your campus feel the need to provide spaces and resources for LGBTQ plus students?
Well, I think that kind of goes back to my previous answer, right? Like we live in a world, right? Folks say, oh, it's 2021, everything is good. Queer folks are fine. Gay marriage is passed. But there's still so much that our communities are facing at disproportionate rates than others. So we have to be honest and know that there is that extra level of support that LGBTQ plus, especially youth, need, right? As they are fostering into this new understanding of how they engage in the world, we provide that guide, that leading voice to help bring forward, right, the true authenticity that folks are oftentimes not able to bring into various different spaces. So we do our best to really create a space that feels like a home, right? But again, always going back to our students to say, what do y'all need to see differently, right? We're having conversations right now about how we want to do some type of survey or a needs assessment to get an understanding, especially as we transition to doing things in person again, of what our students need. So we know that our students are looking for that extra support and that sense of community that they often can't find in other spaces.
And another reason that Penn feels it's important to have an LGBT center is Penn wants to attract the best of the best. And LGBTQ people are in that population. Mm. And as a result, it's not just us, although I like to think a large part of it is us. We have a very large trans-identifying population on campus. So we hope some of our work has helped with that, and some of our education of our faculty and staff has helped to really bring the LGBT community, scholars and otherwise, to campus.
Yes, it's so important to note that across all fields, across whatever you're looking to do, LGBTQ plus folks are there. Right. And so, again, we like to think of ourselves as that central hub for our LGBTQ plus community to come together. But at the same time, folks are sometimes siloed, right, in their various schools and their various departments. So we like to make sure that we are making our efforts to bring us all together while still giving them their own sense of community in their individual spaces, right? Because we know that LGBTQ plus folks in the medical field may experience things differently than folks within the engineering field, right? Or may experience things differently with folks in the business field. So we really are trying to do our best to find that or garner that sense of community for all of us while still giving folks those opportunities to connect within their individual communities as well.
Yes, definitely. Unification is really important. Mm-hmm. So how do LGBTQ plus students get involved on your campus? And do you have any active out LGBTQ plus student leaders across campus?
I would say it's fairly easy for folks to get involved. In the virtual world, a lot of it's just joining a Facebook group or a chat group or things like that. But to join at Penn, you don't have to have applications for any of our groups. You show up. Or you write to somebody and say, I'm interested. I may not be able to come to the meetings, but can I help in certain ways, right? So it's pretty easy to get involved in our student groups on campuses. And as Malik said earlier, there's a lot of niche ones. So you can find your niche. I mean, one that hasn't been mentioned yet is we have 3 faith-based groups at the LGBTQ Center. So it's important that folks know they can enter in many different ways. We have folks, for instance, who were active in Hillel, and folks from Hillel also support our group, which is called J-Bagel, Jewish Bisexuals, Gays, and Lesbians. So they were able to enter from that direction as well. So getting involved is a pretty easy process. And yes, we have LGBTQ student leaders across campus, not just of our groups. I think it's important to note that. We have had a few folks who were the chair of the undergraduate assembly, which is the overarching student government for our undergrads. Our current GAPSA chair, Graduate and Professional Student Association, is an out and proud member of our community. So we have leaders in fraternities, in sororities, in lots of a cappella groups. Penn has a lot of a cappella groups. Mm-hmm. And performing arts, you name it, we probably have leaders in that section of our campus. We even have LGBTQ plus folks in athletics, which has been a big row to hoe for us. We've had a group for our athletes, but sometimes it's hard for them to be out on their teams and they only intersected with us. But now our athletics department has really done a lot of work, and we have some really amazing athletes who are captains on their teams. So we do have LGBTQ leaders across campus, and we do have, I think, an easy route to join and be involved. Malik?
Yeah, the only thing I will add is, honestly, there might be some that we don't even know of, right? Because there are some folks who are out and living their lives and just haven't connected with us because they're already off doing so many other things, right? So I think that's another layer of knowing that, again, LGBTQ plus folks are all across this campus. And whether they are engaged with us or not, they are a member of our community. They're welcome to be involved in any of our programming and such, and opening the doors to say, this is your home if and when you need it, right? Because that's one thing that we don't do. We're not a gatekeeping space. We're not like checking to see where's your queer card to make sure you could come, right? It's one of these things where literally our mantra is you belong. You belong because all of our students, all of our faculty, staff, all of our alumni, our community members, they belong. Right. And they're allowed to be here regardless of what their identity is. And if they are a member of the community or not, we don't know for sure. You're here, and that's what matters. That's what matters. Right now, there are a lot of students who are out and proud, doing a lot of that work, one within our LGBTQ plus student groups and outside of that. So they're all over. They're all over.
Amazing answers. So if an LGBTQ plus student has an issue of harassment inside or outside the classroom, how will it get remedied or handled?
It's a great question. And the answer is, it depends. So a lot of times folks come to us and speak to one of us, and we talk through and listen and validate what they're telling us, and then offer options, because it's really important for our students to have agency in how things are handled. Do they want to do a role play with us and talk to their professor themselves? Do they want us to have a conversation with the professor? Maybe not, because maybe they feel like they'd be outed if that happens. Do we approach the entire department and say, hey, some things have come up. We'd like to work with your entire department around this issue. So there are many different options we can do, even beyond what I just shared, depending on what kind of class, what's happening. Is it misgendering? Is it talking virulently against being a member of our community? There's many different ways. And once they come through us, and they don't all come through us, but a lot of them do, they can go to the Ombuds office. They can go to the Affirmative Action office. There's many different pathways that folks can follow. And we also now have something on campus that Malik and I are both involved in, which is restorative practices at Penn, based on a restorative justice model. So that's another option we have on campus that we haven't used for any of these yet, but it's being used for bigger disagreements and problems that have happened. And Malik and I help work with some of the groups around that as well.
You said it all, Erin. I'll leave it at that.
Great answer. This next question should be really interesting. So how is your campus supporting LGBTQ plus students across their diverse intersections of identity?
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I love that question because, as I said, our one of our main core principles is that we stem from a space of intersectionality, right? And one of the main ways is by all these individual groups, right? You know, I come from a campus previously where there was one LGBTQ plus student organization, right? But here on our campus, there are a plethora, some of which are very niche about those identities that folks are bringing, right? So as Erin mentioned, we have our religious groups like J-Bagel, QCF, the Queer Christian Fellowship, QMAP, Queer Muslims at Penn, which is still up and coming. We have organizations like Penn Non-Cis that is thinking about non-cis folks. We have organizations like BCAPSA, which is the Black Graduate Student and Professional Organization. So it's those types of areas where they are individually building community. But here at our center, all of our programming makes an effort to be one that is really coming from that space of intersectionality. Like just a couple weeks ago, we did a program on queer erasure in the age of representation, and we were really focusing in on folks of color, right? And how do we address how people of color who are queer are being represented in the media and in these different fields of interest, right? So we take our steps of making sure that our space, one, is doing its best to be representative of the communities that we engage with, right? But then also that we're making a home where folks know that they are totally being validated. Now, at times, especially because we are a very siloed campus, there are ways in which folks may find home somewhere else, but we are very, very intentional about collaborating with our other cultural resource centers. So we have our space, the Greenfield Intercultural Center, La Casa. We have Patch, the Pan Asian American Community House. We have Maku, the Black Cultural Center, and the Penn Women's Center. We work heavily we call ourselves the CRCs, the Cultural Resource Centers, where we are collectively coming together to do programming, right? Just this week, we're doing a program on food and culture called Simmer and Stir, that is really bringing home this idea that all of us come with culture, and food is a major piece of that at times, and how we engage, and storytelling being that other piece, right? So we are very, very intentional about how we collaborate across groups and across spaces on this campus, especially our cultural resource centers. Erin, I wonder if you have anything to add there.
Absolutely. I think Malik hit it on the head. And one other thing that Malik and I are really dedicated to is lifting as we climb. Now, we didn't make that up. The National Association of Colored Women used that phrase way before us. But as we make progress on campus, we want to make sure other oppressed groups also are lifted with us. And they lift us as well. We all work on programming together so that people can see you can bring all of yourself to Penn. No matter where you find your home, you can have multiple homes. We really don't care, as long as you feel like you belong somewhere. We want you to belong at the center, selfishly, but you can belong other places and spaces. And again, lifting the other folks. And that has served us so well, working as coalitions to push on different issues on campus. Student leaders coming together to ask for certain things has just been beautiful in terms of these intersecting identities.
Mm-hmm. We've also been a very, very strong voice on campus in our educational programming about embracing intersectional identities, right? So we do a session called Broadening Your Perspectives that is all about intersectionality and how we, one, engage with our own identities, but then also engage with folks across identities. And especially as we have seen things shift in our national sphere in terms of how we talk about and engage in social justice, folks have been tapping us a lot, right? To really dig into that conversation about how we really appropriately and effectively engage with folks across difference from that place of non-discrimination, from that place of respect and building community.
Fantastic answers. Social justice, equality, and equity are constant journeys of progress. So what's on the agenda for your campus to improve within the next 2 to 3 years?
On some levels, we don't know, because who knows what the world is going to give us, and we don't know our students yet. I mean, that's part of the cool thing about working on a college campus. You get new students with new ideas who bring up new issues every single year. One thing that's really important to us in the next few years is we need a third staff person. Malik and I have been short-staffed for almost 2 years, so that really is on our radar. We can much better serve our students if there's more of us to really support our students. So that's something that we're really looking forward to. Another thing is continued, if not ramped up, social justice intersectional programming, where, yes, we're seen as the LGBTQ+ center, but we're also becoming this nexus, as Malik was talking about, around these social justice issues. How can we help other offices talk about them through the lens of sexuality and gender identity? That's not as scary if you're like, we all have a gender identity, right? So I think moving down that road also is something that we're really, really excited about. And I think being even more inclusive, this is an ongoing one too. I just was at a meeting around international students. We have a large international student population at Penn. And how can we better reach out to folks, for instance, where their native language doesn't have any words for the LGBTQ+ community? How can we reach out to folks who are on government scholarships, where if they find out they're a member of our community, they get brought back home immediately, their scholarships are taken away. So thinking about those issues, and that's just one group. We need to work better with folks with disabilities. So really putting these intersections together, not stopping the intersections at two, like being disabled and a member of the community. We really have to start making that whole mosaic a bit better. I'm sure Malik has some ideas too.
Yeah, I will add, I think, especially as we have been navigating our virtual world, we have seen an uptick in how we think about accessibility, right? And how folks access our space and our services. So I think that's something we are definitely thinking about in the coming years is how do we provide maybe that hybrid type of opportunity on how folks can engage with our space, right? This year has definitely opened our eyes to the possibilities of how folks can get engaged with our space. So I'm really interested to see how that continues to shift over the next year or so. The other thing that I've been thinking about a lot is we do have our professionals that work here, me and Erin, but we also have a team of students that work with us, right? Work study students. We have a graduate assistant. We have a practicum or intern. So that has also shifted in terms of how folks, their work has been kind of happening as we navigate our virtual world, because a lot of their work previously had to do with our space, but not having the space has expanded their scope of the work that they do. So I'm really interested to see how, when we do transition to doing things in person, hopefully in the fall, that work will shift and how we can truly think about our students being those programming assistants, really driving us, driving forward some of our programming and supporting the professional and personal development of our students that work with us to really give them a sense of how we do this work and how they can continue to live authentically in the work that they do.
Amazing answers. What is the queerest or most LGBTQ plus aspect or thing on your campus?
Malik Muhammad. No, I'm just kidding.
Me. No, I guess I would say just our space, right? I think being a space that is that kind of central hub for LGBTQ plus life is so exciting. So I think talking about our space, some of our student groups are definitely at the forefront of driving so much of this. Definitely our Lambda Alliance, our Lambda grads. I would also add maybe GSWS, which is the Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies Department, super queer, right? But as I said, there's queer folks across all different studies and stuff on this campus. So I guess that's what I would say. I would say our space here, GSWS, and of course our student groups that are just driving so much of our campus LGBTQ plus life.
I agree with Malik. There's some other ways to look at it. I would say something that's super queer at Penn is our performing arts community as well. We joke that they're the LGBT Center South, and we joke that our writer's house is LGBT Center East.
Oh, yes.
So we collaborate with those and have a lot of overlap. But there's one experience that I want to share. So there's a main drag in our campus, and it's called Locust Walk. Mm-hmm. You have to go up and down it at least once a day to get through your day. You walk. One day I was walking under statue that's near where our center is. I run into our building manager, a former housekeeper, a professor, and a student, all within like a minute of each other. And they just keep joining the conversation. On that walk, we were all queer. Like it was like they all came together and I was like, oh my gosh, we need to take a picture of this or something. So it was just so amazing that just happens. It's just these queer moments can just happen and blossom out of anywhere. Or when our president says the word queer, which is not very often. She uses LGBTQ more often. But I mean, the fact that that's actually happening is another really cool queer moment.
Really, really cool. In 3 words, how would you describe your campus to a prospective LGBTQ plus student?
Oh, I got it. Here, you belong. That's it. I'll leave it at that.
Almost a haiku. Look at that. It's a modern haiku. I think you belong is absolutely right. I would also say welcoming. I think that's really important. Before you feel like you can belong, you have to feel like you're welcome to even come into the space. And so I think welcoming really fits us to a T, as well as our tagline of you belong.
Yeah. Find home here. Those types of things that are really emphasizing this essence of home. Yes, thank you. We have this picture here that showcases our National Coming Out Day. We did a little passive programming. We had some folks all throughout Locust Walk, because as Erin said, that's where like the massive hub of folks will usually are. We did a tabling event where we had folks come out in support of someone they know, them themselves, the community at large, whatever it may be. And then we put it up all around our space. So folks knew that they had support here in our campus. So they knew that this was a space where they could truly be themselves. So again, find home here. Here you belong.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Please share for those watching on your website to learn more about LGBTQ plus life on your campus. Again, thank you so much. Campus Pride really does appreciate your hard work and your continued efforts to create an inclusive space for LGBTQ plus students to learn, live, grow, and thrive at the University of Pennsylvania. Your work makes a positive difference in so many lives, and thank you so much. Truly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ayla and Campus Pride.
Thank you. Thank you for watching the Campus Pride Spotlight Series. If you wish to learn more about this campus or any other college or university, you can search for free at the Campus Pride Index online at campusprideindex.org for over 400 plus colleges and universities who have come out as LGBTQ plus friendly. Again, my name is Ayla, and thank you so much for watching.